Chapter 6 Unspec 4 Maishi Tower, Satellite City. Cosmo didn't remember much about the trip out to the Maishi Corporation HQ on Journey Avenue. Cellophane slugs had some sort of mild sedative in the sealant, which was just as well, because if a person got too excited in there, he could break his own ribs with deep breaths. Cosmo was lifted from the back of an assault truck and dumped bodily into an enormous plastic glass vat full of viscous yellow dissolving agent. Cosmo had been in a vat before at the Institute. The agent would have him puking for hours once it got out of his system. Cosmo's nose and mouth were kept above the device by a plunger-like device attached to the top of his head. If that was moved before the dissolving agent could do his work, he could get plunger burn and end up with a large circular bulb patch, but there's no point in worrying about that even now. There wasn't anything he could do. Even the sedative allowed him to summon some willpower. The best thing he could do was float there and keep his breathing regular, short, even breaths that put no pressure on his ribcage. In a way, it was relief to have nothing to do. No crazy missions, no death-defying midnight antics, and no supernatural creatures staring at him through round eyes. Then the parasite did attach itself to the outside of the vat, staring through the plastic glass. But Cosmo was safe in there. The creature couldn't break the liquid. Any other time, it would have been unnerving to have the creature so close. The sparkling blue pads of its four-fingered hands stuck to the plastic glass. They stared at each other, boy and creature, through a yellow haze. In Cosmo's mind, the parasite's eyes spoke volumes. "There is no escape from me," they said. After several minutes of implacable staring, the parasite detached itself from the plastic glass. Doubtless, there was life to be siphoned elsewhere. Cosmo sank in a new trance-like state. The events of the past few days bounced around his head like blobs of oil in a lava lamp. Who was he now? Cosmo Hill, fugitive no sponsor? Or Cosmo Hill, supernaturalist? Who was Cosmo Hill anyhow? A product of Clarissa Frame with no personality to speak of. 14 years old, and had never even kissed a girl. Mona. What was it about her that made his stomach lurch? Cosmo had once been injected with a mild strain of malaria as part of a vaccine test. The malaria had pretty much the same effect on him as Mona had now. It was a pity, really. His feelings were pointless. What girl in her right mind would notice Cosmo even if he was standing on a birthday cake wearing a neon hat? Nevertheless, Mona's image grew in Cosmo's mind until it was displaced to all others. Her smile, the black hair curling over her collar. Those dark eyes seemed like two chocolate buttons. She seemed to float in the liquid before him, reaching out a hand to stroke his cheek. The sedative made Cosmo speak. Might as well, he reasoned. It's just a hallucination. "Oh, nah," he said, and strangely there was no cellophane covering his face anymore. "I really like you." "Is that so?" said the large bearded vat man, who was winching Cosmo's plunger. "I really like you too, sweetheart." The bearded man hosed Cosmo down, sickened the entire time, then tossed him shivering into a padded holding cell. As he left, he threw a kiss over his shoulder. "Adieu, my prince, until we meet again." Cosmo was too busy throwing up into the aluminum trough to respond. Not that he would say anything even if he could. And Clarissa Frayne, you learn to keep your mouth shut. Everyone in those sponsors had known that, except Ziploc. When he recovered sufficiently, Cosmo tore some paper from a wall-mounted roll and wiped himself down. Then he dragged a steel car across the roof until it was directly beneath the warm air vent and lay down. His orphanage habits were returning, as if he'd never been away. After all, what was a few days in 14 years? Not even 1%. Nowhere close. And yet, he felt he had lived more in those past few days than all those years combined. When they threw you in the hole in the Clarissa frame, there were certain survival methods the no sponsors all knew. First of all, sleep as much as possible. That took your mind off the food and your situation in general. A seasoned orphan could sleep as much as 16 hours a day. Secondly, don't think about freedom. Wishing the days away made them seem longer. And finally, try not to want anything, especially parents. That just broke your heart. Cosmo lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. There was too much happening around his head. Supernaturalists, parasites, sweethearts, bulldogs, a Bartoli baby, and of course, Mona. Thank goodness he had only declared his affection to a vat man. Mona would probably laugh in his face. Not that he would ever see her again. Cosmo had no doubt once they DNA typed him and found out who he was, he'd been the first two back to Clarissa Frayne, and Marshall Redwood would be waiting for him. Sometime later, the fat man returned, still grinning hugely, obviously a man happy in his work. "Okay, sweetheart," he said, scratching a patch of stubble between two drooping chins. "On your feet. Somebody wants to talk to you." "Who?" asked Cosmo, swinging his damp boots on the floor. The fat man lifted Cosmo's chin with a baton. "What did you say? Did you just ask me a question?" "No," said Cosmo. "No, sir." "Better," said the jailer, turning his back. "Follow me, and stay between the yellow lines. One of the guards will wrap you again." The fat man led him down a long corridor to a bank of elevators. There were two solid yellow lines on the floor, with a scuffed linoleum between. Cosmo stepped forward to the first elevator. No, sweetheart," said the fat man. "You're going to the observatory." He said reverentially, like it was a big deal. Cosmo followed him to the last elevator in the bank, a gold block with no call button, just a video intercom. The fat attendant, stood before the camera, spinning his hair with one legged hand. "I got the kid here, the one who junked the tank." There was no reply, but the door slid open noiselessly. "In you go, sweetheart," said the man, pushing Cosmo inside. "Miss you already," said Cosmo as the door closed. Why not? It was unlikely he would see that man again. The elevator rose so quickly that it appeared to stay absolutely still. Cosmo didn't realize he was moving until one wall slid back to reveal a crystal window. The elevator was on the outside of the building and was shooting upwards like a projectile from a cannon. Outside, the city flashed past in speed-blurred lines of light. Soon the golden box had outstripped the other buildings and was sailing upward towards the heavens. Cosmo felt that the elevator stopped now. He would continue upward, losing himself in the universe. There was no time to consider escape, and nowhere to escape to. You might as well talk about escaping from a parachute. Before the notion even occurred to him, the elevator began decelerating, coming to a halt somewhere near the edge of the atmosphere. It seemed to Cosmo that, if he reached up a hand, he would be able to touch the Maishi satellite. The door slid open, and a very large hand reached in, grabbed Cosmo by the throat, and dragged him into the most opulent room he had ever seen in his life. Illegal stuffed animal heads were mounted on the walls: elephants, bears, a gorilla, and hundreds of birds. There was even an extinct dolphin flapping robotically in a vat of blue preservative. Low couches lined the walls, draped with luxurious throws. Expensive-looking art vied for attention, including a mime hologram and a suspended cube. "Welcome to the Maishi Corporation," said a female voice. Cosmo looked across the room to a sunken lounge area. A slender woman was reclining on a fur-lined sofa, running a finger around the rim of a crystal flute. There were at least half a dozen bodyguards within 6 feet of her. Cosmo could feel their eyes through the black lenses of their sunglasses. Sunglasses at night? Weirder and weirder. One of the bodyguards adjusted a tiny dial on the arm of his glasses. "He's clean," he said in tones that could have sanded wood. "No weaponry." Not just ordinary sunglasses, then. The woman stood. She was tall and slim. No surgery, though. This woman looked like she could bench press a couple of the security men. Her features were tanned and strong. The tan must have been painted on, because no one in their right minds stayed out in the sun anymore. Her hair was cropped short, blonde with gray streaks at the temples. She was dressed in a loose linen suit, almost like pajamas, and wore flat leather thong sandals with a gold ring on the second toe of one foot. "So you're the one who took out an assault tank," she said. Her voice was musical, almost mesmeric. "Do you know how much one of those tanks costs?" Cosmo shook his head. "An absolute fortune. Never mind, we're insured. The point is, there is a seal in the tank's barrel to stop this kind of thing happening. It only opens for 1/100th of a second before each shell is fired. You managed to put a cellophane slug down there in that time. Impressive, if you meant it. We had you DNA typed, Master Cosmo Hill, no sponsor. You're supposed to be dead." Cosmo decided this would be a good time to change the subject. Are you Miss Maishi? The woman laughed, soft peals that made Cosmo want to laugh with her. Miss Maishi? No, there hasn't been a Maishi at the corporation's helm for nearly 100 years. We just keep the name for public recognition purposes. The Maishi Zabatsu wasn't suited to the modern business world. Too many Eastern morals. My name is... At that precise moment, the elevator door opened and Stefan stepped out. His brow was creased in its customary frown until he noticed the blonde lady. Professor Faustino, he said uncertainly. What are you doing here? Did they get you too? Stefan shrugged off a pair of security men at his elbows and strode across the room. With the flick of a single finger, Faustino directed the security man back into the elevator. Stefan caught the gesture and stopped short. You work here, Professor Faustino? For Maishi? It's President Faustino now, Stefan. Confusion was written all over Stefan's face. Was this woman an old friend or an old foe? President? I never thought you would go to work for the corporations, especially Maishi. Fight from the inside, Stefan. Attack from the rear. Well, you certainly are on the inside. Faustino reached up, laying a hand on each of Stefan's shoulders. Well, well, well. Little Stefan Bashkir, you have grown up. Cosmo blinked. Little Stefan Bashkir? Who was this woman? Stefan looked embarrassed by the attention. Was he actually blushing? It's been more than 2 years since I got out of the widows and orphans home. The last time I saw you, you were still with the city police. Now you've gone over to the other side. Faustino picked up a wafer-thin remote control from the coffee table. Don't believe everything you hear about Maishi, Stefan. We do more harm than good. We do more good than harm. She brushed an elegant finger against the button, and the suite's entire roof slid back, revealing the stars and, of course, the satellite. The satellite that saved the world, completed Stefan. We've all seen it on TV. Every 20 seconds, it seems. Ellen Faustino smiled. Not like this, you haven't. Come over here, Stefan. And you too, Master Hill. Sit down. The view is splendid. Cosmo crossed the plush carpet, weaving between growling bodyguards. The men hadn't probably messed anyone up today and were looking for an excuse. He took a seat between Stefan and Faustino on a low sofa. Her perfume wafted over him like something he'd smelled once in a dream, but couldn't quite remember. Comfortable? She asked. Cosmo nodded hesitantly. He'd never been asked that question before. The marshals and Clarissa Frayne weren't inclined to get blubbery if an orphan was uncomfortable. Oftentimes, the marshals were the cause of the discomfort. Faustino pressed the second button on the remote, and the sofa tilted backwards. Speakers slid out from behind the headrests. They were now looking directly through the transparent ceiling at the satellite above. The ceiling flexed slightly, and suddenly everything was magnified by 1,000. It seemed as though the satellite was about to crash onto the building. Cosmo jumped in his seat. Relax, boy, said Ellen, pressing 2 slim fingers on his wrist. The observatory often has that effect on first-timers. The detail was amazing. Cosmo could pick out individual solar panels on the satellite. He could see bursts of gas from the stabilizers and dish jockeys floating across the concave surface of the great dish. It was immense and mind-boggling. Stefan was not so easily impressed. What are we doing here, Professor Faustino? What is this all about? Be patient, Stefan. That was always your failing. Sometimes a story is too big to tell in one breath. Faustino pressed a combination of buttons, and several screens appeared on the giant lens. The screens were running old news footage from the beginning of the millennium, scenes from war-torn Europe and the Middle East, African famine, and South American earthquakes. Wraparound sound erupted from the speakers. Faustino supplied the commentary. Not so long ago, the world was tearing itself apart. There simply wasn't enough room on the planet for us all. The Maishi satellite has gone some way to solving that problem. Stefan folded his arms, crossing his boots slightly. International body language for pull the other leg. I know your opinion on Maishi, Stefan, said Faustino, but just give me a chance, and I think you'll find we're fighting the same enemy. I doubt that, muttered Stefan. The problem was that countries were not being run as businesses. Decisions were being made on the basis of religion or history, notoriously unsound motives for doing anything. States fell apart because of bigotry and centuries-old squabbles. The Maishi Corporation is taking on all these problems, and I think we're winning. How can you say that? Interjected Stefan. Parts of the city are in chaos. People are starving. I'm not saying things are perfect, Stefan. There have been wrinkles, but this is a new system. Satellite cities could solve the world's population problem. Storage in outer space is the future, Stefan, and that's the truth. Every household has an average of 10 computer-driven appliances. Do you realize how much memory space that occupies? In a city that size, that's 10 blocks, just for household appliances. Then you have administration, entertainment, travel, and communications. We store all of that in a satellite in geostationary orbit above the city, constantly updating and constantly self-repairing. Cosmo was first to twig where this was leading. Self-repairing until now, he said. Lately, the satellite has been messing up, big time. Faustino switched off the news footage. That's right. It's getting worse and worse. As you can see, we have squads of dish jockeys working around the clock. Some things we've been able to cover up, but word is getting out. Maishi stock is taking a real hammering. Second homeless people don't care much about stock, said Stefan. A flash of annoyance curled Faustino's lip for an instant, then disappeared. These things are being addressed, Stefan. We have long-term projects in development, shelters, employment schemes, rehabilitation clinics. I'm doing my best to raise the money from Maishi International in Berlin. In fact, Central had signed on for a 40 billion dinar welfare grant for the city until this latest problem came along. What problem? Asked Stefan, trying to fake only casual interest. Oh, I think we both know what the problem is. Faustino rose from the couch and straightened her linen suit. Stefan was out of the sofa, staring down into the woman's eyes. I said, what problem, Professor? Faustino stared right back at him, not in the least bit cowed. Don't talk to me that way, Stefan. Your mother would not have approved. Answers. That's why I brought you here, and that's why you and your little vigilante helper aren't in the interrogation block right now. Ellen Faustino ran some more footage on the ceiling screens. Look up, Stefan. They're playing your song. Stefan settled back into the couch. Overhead, a familiar scene played out digitally. It showed the supernaturalist blasting Parasites on top of the Stromberg building in glorious two-tone fashion. Stefan winked at Cosmo. Well, that doesn't prove anything. Those people aren't wearing fuss plates, so you can't see who they are. And even if you could, they're not hurting anybody. Faustino looked around dramatically. This isn't a courtroom, Stefan. I don't see any lawyers in here. If I wanted you on charges, I would have had you 2 years ago. Stefan's surprise broke through his mask of indifference. You what? That's right, young man. I've had my electronic eye on you for a long time now. A special scope on the satellite, dedicated to your nightly adventures. Well, you insist on running around rooftops, and believe me, I have plenty of footage on your smiling face without fuss plate. Not to mention Miss Mona Vasquez and a certain Lucien Bond, a.k.a. Ditto. I have enough evidence on your little group to have you buried deeper than a core or tunnel. Stefan clenched his fist so tightly the knuckles popped. What's going on here? Don't you want to know why I've never pulled you in until now? Until tonight, corrected Stefan. Faustino waved her hands. Tonight was a mistake. You got mixed up in another department's operation. If you two knew the favors I had to call to get you two released into my custody. That said, I have been trying to find you for the last few weeks. I thought you were the president. Surely you could just track us with your all-seeing satellite. I'm just the president of developmental projects. May your rays shine is the big cheese. He doesn't even know that we're working together. Again, Stefan was stunned. Now we're working together? Of course you didn't know it. You've been taking care of the city's infestation problem. Or so we thought. Aha, thought Cosmo. Here comes the reason why we're not in pain right now. Infestation? said Stefan instantly. Faustino smiled. Oh, come on now, Stefan. Don't play dumb with me. I see them too, you know. See who? See what? Faustino crossed to her desk and activated a 3D projector set on the floor. She transferred the strong footage from the ceiling screen, and the 3D high-resolution rendering of the supernaturalist sprang to life in the center of the room. Shot from above, they resembled characters in a video game. A single parasite crawled along an adjacent wall. Faustino froze the footage, manipulating the video until only the parasite remained. I see them, Stefan. Unspec 4, the Life Eaters. For the third time in as many minutes, Stefan was stunned. You will see them? Unspec what? Faustino enlarged the parasite's image. Unspec 4. Uncategorized species 4. The other 3 are deep-sea creatures that we're pretty sure exist, but haven't been able to capture yet. A species is not considered to be categorized until it can be captured and examined. Of course, not everyone can see this. To a normal person, we're looking at a blank projection, but to a select few, your little group included, the truth is all too clear. Faustino turned to the security guards. Out, all of you. The leader stepped forward. President Faustino, that's against regulations. Ellen said nothing, just stared into the man's lenses. The 200-plus pound gorilla backed down in less than 5 seconds. Very well, Madam President. We'll be in the elevator. Ellen perched on the desktop, remaining silent until the elevator door slid shut. When I joined the force, before I began teaching, Bushka was my beat. Back then, there was still a semblance of order down there. One night, I took a knife in the ribs, breaking up a domestic. I nearly died. Out of body, into the light. The whole thing. The paramedics brought me back, but I saw something that night. Something I've never been able to see since. Cosmo sat bolt upright. You're a spotter, like me! Stefan sighed through his nose. Why don't you just sign a confession, Cosmo? I kept it to myself, continued Ellie. These sightings, convinced I was crazy. But then I heard about someone else who raved about blue creatures. You, Stefan, after the accident. You were quite a joke in the police academy for a while. Section 8, everyone said. As your personal tutor and a family friend, I tried to help you through the trauma, but you would not. I hoped you would open up to me. Stefan's eyes widened. All those therapy sessions, all those questions about post-traumatic stress and hallucinations. Ellie sighed. But you wouldn't open up to me. Apparently you had realized that no one wanted to listen. All that time in the academy together, and we both had the same problem. Oh, why didn't you just tell me? I should have. I know. But I was afraid that word would get out, and my career would be finished. She lowered her eyes. I didn't trust you. I'm sorry. After you left the academy, the Sabi Vigilante Squad, I finished my second doctorate and came to work for Maishi in research and development. One of my jobs was a low-budget project to trace tiny power surges that were striking on the satellite's dishes from the planet's surface. Nothing serious. Small charges, not enough to cause interference. I figured in about 10 minutes where the charges were coming from. On Spec 4, we're venting them. Naturally, I never revealed my findings. I had a career to think of. Eventually, the charges were attributed to industrial discharge from Satellite City. I went on with my work, trying to make things better in my own small way. But then a few years ago, the changes began to increase. Slowly at first, but then at an alarming rate. So much so that they began to damage the dish plates. Now the discharge is so great, that's a constant stream. We're losing links with the surface. People are dying. It's a red light crisis for the corporation. People have been dying in Satellite City for years, and Maishi has done nothing about it. Now, when there's money involved, suddenly they're interested. For the first time, Faustino's voice took on a hard quality. Don't be so naive, Stefan. Money gets things done. As soon as the satellite lost its first uplink up, all developmental projects were frozen. I had 2 hospitals and a rehab center in the pipeline. Gone now, unless we can sort out an unspec problem. Faustino's temper disappeared as quickly as it appeared. You've been handling the creatures for years, destroying them very efficiently. There was no need to start up a team. Or, so I thought. Stefan sat up. What does that mean? The lightning rods. Very clever. The residual charge itself gets the creature. Parasites, interrupted Cosmo. We call them parasites. Ellen nodded. Parasites. Very good. You were wiping out the parasites with a single-mindedness that my Ishi employees can never match. So I kept an eye on you and left you alone to do your work. Our work. But after the recent increase in charges, I put together a small team to investigate. There are the two factors that bring on the second site, in my opinion. Near-death experiences, coupled with a lifelong exposure to Satellite City's chemical smog. The computer ran a search on the Maishi personnel files, and I interviewed everyone on the list. I found 3 other spotters, all under 25. I am the only one over 40. We began an in-depth study of the parasites, especially what happens to them after you shoot them, and we found something you might like to know. Faustino crossed to the elevator door, checking to see that it was closed. She then ran a bug sweeper over the walls and phones, looking for surveillance devices. When she was certain that nobody had eye or ear into the observatory, she took a crystal video chip from her wallet, pressing it into the 3D projector. Next generation technology, she explained. We can get 200 hours of video in one crystal chip. Maishi will kick Fanatics' butt next quarter. A life-size 3D representation of a parasite materialized in the room. Stefan automatically reached for a lightning rod in his jacket. Faustino laughed. Relax, Stefan. Amazing quality, I know. These are the first generation of lenses that can actually even photograph on Spec 4. What I'm about to show you is a result of months of surveillance. I'd say it was classified, but who are you going to tell? The parasite began its curious slope along a projected wall. On Spec 4 it seems to be made of pure energy, which it obviously expands through activity. We observe the parasite's luminosity fades the farther it travels. Faustino switched on a laser pointer. This glowing center here is on Spec 4's equivalent of a heart. As it runs out of energy, the heart pulsates more slowly. Eventually, the heart will feed on the creature's body, absorbing it in order to keep breathing. The 3D parasite faded into a pastel blue. Its skin lost coherence, and shortly after that, the heart did not have enough energy to keep itself intact. It disappeared in a blue flash. That flash, said Cosmo. Is that what Maishi is worried about? Faustino shook her head. I wish. Those flashes barely register on our meters. No. On Spec 4 only lets real sparks fly after absorbing energy. The picture changed. This time a parasite was crouched in the chest of a fallen fireman. A stream of white gold energy flowed into the creature's palms. The parasite glowed like a bag of stars, then drifted up a nearby wall. The camera followed the creature to a windowsill, where it rested briefly. The absorbed energy ran through its organs with increasing speed and agitation. After several seconds of unrest, an energy charge burst through the pores of the creature's skin, spiraling skyward. Now that I've never seen before, said Stefan. We believe that the parasite's organs scrub the energy, then release completely clean power. Cosmo's adolescent mind got it first. So, you're saying all this trouble is being caused by parasite poop? Ellen smiled. Exactly. People could have tried to say it better and couldn't. It's a bit like trees taking in carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. Nature's filters. This next clip is the part you'll be really interested in. We only got it last month. Since then, I've been trying to track you down. A new clip appeared in the projector ray. This one showed an obsessed-looking Stefan in the middle of a disaster zone. Emergency vehicles were converging on all sides, and parasites were feeding on the victims in the riot. I remember that, said the Russian. Food riot in Pushka, near the blockade. Nasty. In the projection, Stefan was letting loot fly with his lightning rod. blasting parasites from their perches. The camera caught one parasite at the moment it exploded into a dozen shimmering spheres. The satellite camera tracked a single sphere for several minutes, following its rise into the atmosphere. Have you any idea how much it costs to get this footage? I had to buy camera time for an entire day. Stefan didn't even hear the complaint, too focused on the sphere. It stopped rising after more than a mile, drifting slightly in the prevailing wind. The camera zoomed in until the sphere was the size of a basketball, hovering between land and space. In order to photograph the parasites, our new lenses were coated with a chemical compound, said Faustino. It took my team months to find the right solution. We told head office it was an anti-glare spray. Stefan didn't respond. His eyes were glued on the projection. The sphere's surface began to ripple slightly, as inside the energy coiled itself into a rope, chasing its tail into intricate knots. What's happening? Asked Cosmo. Stefan reached out his hands, sinking them to the projection. No! He breathed. The rope solidified, becoming more complex. A silver star shone at their center. It can't be. Not after all this. Two round eyes appeared, then blue fingers, pushing against the sphere's surface, forcing the skin. What have I done? The sphere's surface split, and a brand new parasite appeared, fully formed and ready to siphon life from a human in pain. It spread its arms and drifted earthward on the wind. Stefan's face was a mask of anguish. All this time, I've been helping them, not destroying them, helping them to reproduce. Faustino switched off the projector. It's not your fault, Stefan. How could you know? All you saw were creatures who had destroyed your life. You fought them the same way I would have. She helped Stefan onto the sofa. What we need to decide now is how to continue the fight. There is no fight, said Stefan glumly. Raven, it's over. How can I go on? It would take me 10 lifetimes just to undo the damage I've done. Not necessarily, said Faustino. To defeat Unspec 4, you have to understand them. Let me fill you in on what my team has learned after hundreds of hours of satellite surveillance. Unspec 4 are parasitic species that feed on energy, preferably human life force, hiding their activities by feeding on the sick and injured. They absorb energy by osmosis, scrubbing it through bodily filters, then venting the clean energy. These ventings have grown to dangerous proportions because of the decreased number of parasites. Generally, the parasites split into two entities after several years. Then, when they have accumulated enough energy, but due to your efforts, they are reproducing instantaneously and in huge numbers, thus contributing to the energy burst problem. It's a vicious cycle. Stefan Scar stretched his mouth into a cruel facsimile of a smile. You forgot to mention that there's no way to kill them. Faustino couldn't resist a little smile of her own. Oh, I didn't say that. She reactivated the projector, fast-forwarding to another file. Another parasite appeared in the light beams. This one was colorless and almost completely transparent. Its starburst heart reduced to a flickering ember. This one is dying. Stefan's enthusiasm returned in a rush. How? What caused it? We did, replied Faustino. Unintentionally. A starved parasite will sometimes resort to electrical energy. Not their meal of choice, you understand, but sometimes there isn't enough misery to go around. This one lashed to a uranium rod from a nuclear generator in one of our disassembling plants. There was too much contaminated energy. The creature couldn't recycle it, and it clogged up its system. This is security camera footage. We only got it by accident. Nobody had ejected. After all, to them, there's nothing on the screen except for old equipment. Luckily for us, a new lens had been installed during a routine upgrade. So all we have to do, said Stefan, thinking aloud, is pump them full of contaminated energy, completed Cosmo. Exactly, said Faustino, clapping her hands. She took an aluminum briefcase from under the table and laying it carefully on the coffee table. This is our proposed solution. She flipped open the case, revealing a metallic cuboid cradled in a gel coolant pack. The cuboid was connected to a digital timer. Not very pretty, I know, but we're not trying to sell it on the mass market. Stefan studied the device. Some kind of pulse device. The police riot squad use these to knock out power in the buildings they're raiding. They take out mains and local generators. Faustino nodded. Energy pulse. Effective up to 500 meters. The battery has been radioactively charged. Nothing serious. Safe for humans, but lethal for unspec 4. If you could set one of these off where they live, you could do some major damage to our invisible friends. Have you tracked them to their lair? Asked Stefan. No such luck, sighed Faustino. They disperse faster than we can track them. That's what we're working on. Then we're back where we started. Ellen closed the case, slung it across the table to Stefan. No, Stefan. We're a long way from where we started. From now this night on, you and your band have a new mission. Find out where they live, and when you do, give them a little present from me. Stefan took the case. I'll hunt them down, Professor. From now on, that's all we do. But it won't be easy, and it will take time. Faustino came around the table, embracing Stefan slightly. I've missed you, my young student, and I miss your mother every day. She brought life to the city. Stefan returned the hug. I miss her too, he said.